Well, from how elected officials react to concerns about fraud or immigration enforcement, to voters in several states voting Tuesday in primary elections as we kick off primary election season, heading towards that November 3rd general midterm election. Joining me to talk about the first round of primaries for the season is the Center Square's Chief Content Officer, Dan McCaleb. Dan, busy day Tuesday for the first states to kick off primary season, and a lot's at stake in the midterms, including who controls Congress. What's the big takeaways we can learn from Tuesday's elections?
Yeah, voters in North Carolina, Texas, and Arkansas all went to the polls on Tuesday. Many of the results are in. There are still some absentee ballots and whatnot to be counted in the various states. But as you mentioned, control of Congress, Republicans currently hold the majority in both chambers, 218 to 213 in the House, razor slim, and 53 to 47 in the Senate. Democrats this year hope to flip one or both, of course, while Republicans hope to pick up both. Tuesday primary states, Texas and North Carolina. That's the other twist this year. A number of states redistricted their congressional districts to try to give one party or the other an advantage at the polls. Tuesday primary states, Texas and North Carolina, were two of those states. They both redistricted, with Texas Republicans hoping to flip up to 5 blue seats red. Other states that redistricted include California, Ohio, Missouri, and Utah. Back to Texas, though, Greg, one Democrat congressional firebrand lost her primary. I'll get to that one in a second. But in what was probably the most watched race Tuesday night, incumbent Republican U.S. Senator John Cornyn, he's heading to a runoff election against his top challenger, outgoing Republican Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. The three-candidate primary also featured U.S. Representative Wesley Hunt. Cornyn leads with 43% of the vote, but because neither he nor Paxton received 50% of the vote, they will square off in a May 26th runoff. Hunt received under 13% of the vote, and when his current House term ends, he will be out of Congress. Paxton, you might remember this, Greg. He was impeached by the Texas House Republicans 3 years ago over allegations of bribery, abuse of office, and corruption. He was accused of using his position to benefit a campaign donor in exchange for personal favors, including home renovations. That's among other charges. But Paxton was acquitted in the Senate and remained in office. On the Democratic side of that same primary, or that same primary for that same Senate seat, State Representative James Tallarico, who was largely unknown statewide, he received nearly 52% of the vote Tuesday night to defeat the much better known U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett, who received 7% of the vote. Crockett, a liberal firebrand who's known across the country because of some of her antics on the House floor, she'll also be out of Congress when her current term ends.
Yeah, so a lot of different things happening in Texas, and even Dan Crenshaw, a Republican, staunch Republican, he's finding himself possibly not doing too well.
That's right, Greg. In one of the biggest upsets of Tuesday night was the ousting of incumbent Representative Crenshaw. He was a Republican who was first elected in 2018 to Congressional District 2 in the Houston area, but State Representative Steve Toth, considered one of the most conservative members of the Texas legislature, defeated Crenshaw by a vote of 56 to 40%. So another incumbent not going to be in Congress next year.
Yeah, so we've got the elections between two candidates that, obviously we've got who we're going to have moving to the next election, but these runoffs, obviously that's scheduled for Texas, as with many other states that have primaries. And of course, a big one in Texas that people are going to be watching is that race for U.S. Senate. Dan, things seem to be a little bit more predictable in North Carolina, another state that had among the first primaries yesterday. Tell us about what's going on with their race for Senate.
Another big Senate race there, Greg. Two-term Democratic governor, former two-term Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, and Republican Michael Whatley easily advanced to a showdown on November 3rd for a seat from the North Carolina in the U.S. Senate. Cooper was the overwhelming choice, garnering 92% of the vote in a Democratic primary in which there were 5 other candidates on the ballot. So North Carolina Democrats definitely want Cooper to return to office. Whatley, who's the former chairman of the Republican National Committee, he earned 64% of the vote on the Republican side, and he had 6 other challengers on the ballot. So the winner of this race in November will replace 2-term Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican who decided not to seek re-election.
Dan, this is just the first round of primaries. 3 states, right? North Carolina, Texas, and Arkansas. But last I checked, there are at least 47 other states where voters are going to have a crack at who they want to represent them. Tell us about the schedule and just how late we're going with the primary season.
Yeah, those 47 states they're going to be spread out all the way into August. August 18th is the last primary. That's when voters in Alaska, Florida, and Wyoming head to the polls. But next up is Mississippi. Next Tuesday is their midterm primaries, followed by our home state, Greg, of Illinois. That's on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. So it looks like you and I won't be able to enjoy our Guinness on St. Patty's Day this year, Greg.
Well, Guinness or some kind of green beer. Maybe we'll just have to have some in the fridge for whenever we're done covering elections at 2:00 in the morning, Dan, on March 17th. But yeah, you've got Indiana and Ohio in May, Nebraska, West Virginia, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, and the list goes on throughout May. But some of these states, again, have runoff elections as well. So even after the primary election, there could be yet another chance for voters to go to the polls to cast their votes. Well, Dan, we'll be keeping a close eye on this because obviously, as we talked about at the top, lots at stake here. Who controls Congress with those razor-thin margins, and whether or not redistricting had really any true impacts in these various states that moved forward with redistricting. Some big things for reporters at the Center Square to keep an eye on.